Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn, and this, I'm sure, will be the last video this fall, of this road making, which the road is pretty much done. We're sort of working on the finer touches, getting the slope and the grass, or ready for the grass on the sides of the road, as well as the ditches. But while the weather allows me to, I'm going to continue to do some work. What I just did is at the very end of the road, if you remember, there was an area that I wanted a bit more dirt, so I ended up putting 4 of these trailer loads back there and spread it out. That looks good. I'm done with that. I am nearly done with this section. I know it's not going to show up well on camera as far as the slope difference, but where the excavator sits, it's more or less flat with the field. Down here to probably only about a 2-foot drop. Down there at the height of it was probably 3, maybe 4 feet. So I've taken a lot of material out, and I really only have just a little bit to go before I reach over there, which is the end of it. And that'll be the end of sort of major reconstruction along the side of the road. So what I'd like to do while the weather still allows me, again, we're supposed to, forecasters are threatening rain again today. But I'm sure even if we get any rain at all and it dries out this late in the season, we're talking mid-October, the ground is not going to dry out. The grass is not growing, it's not absorbing the moisture. The daylight is not nearly warm enough to evaporate that. So what I do today is probably going to be the last of it, as far as, you know, in the woods or in the field conditions that require sort of dry conditions for firm soil. But what I'm going to do here with this load, a couple of things. You see some riprap that I took out that I don't need in another application around the house, so I dug those out. They're 6 to 8, probably 6 to 10 inches. Here we call them gabion, a smaller riprap. Gabion is those gabion cages that you might see sort of as a retaining wall, where they put that size crushed rock into a cage and instead of like a concrete block. So that is headed for the dam that we had a washout in July. Vermont had some flooding. I didn't have much of issues here around the homestead, but I did have a small area of my pond that washed out where the ford is, where I cross it. So I'm going to put that in there. I did fill it in with about a half a load of dirt where it had washed out. So I'm just going to sort of top that with the riprap, the crushed rock, to stabilize that, and that will be done. So this load is headed for the woods in an area which is a perfect application for road fabric. So I will show that, and I'll explain why road fabric there and not like here on this road when we get out there. So let's go pick up the road fabric and head back. So, to some of you that have watched my channel before, this may look familiar. This is a beaver dam, but this is the new one. In fact, the third one that they've put across my road. So this was 2 months ago. I had a pair of beavers, mating pair, I believe, that put a dam across here. I removed it. They built it up again. I said, well, I can't deal with this, so I had them removed. So I've been beaver free for about 2 months, but here they are again. I'm not sure if it's a single beaver or two. I put up some game cameras to try to figure out, but they're active again. But I'll deal with that later. But for now, this bit here is where I filled in with just some clay, some fill material that had washed out during the July flooding that Vermont had. So I'm going to take this riprap, fill that in so I can drive over it easily without it squishing. And then any extra rocks I have, I'll just sort of fill in around there. But as far as going through the road now, I still have, I don't know, maybe 4 inches deep right along there. So I probably can straddle this dam. I don't know what I'm going to do. If the dam stays like this, I guess I could probably leave it because I can get through back and forth. If they insist on making it higher and higher, going, you know, further on each side of the ford, the spillway, then I'll have to have them removed again. So I don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't know. I mean, it might be interesting to just let them go. As long as I can get across my road, just let them go and see what happens, because in a couple months this will freeze over. That changes the story a little bit, so I'm undecided. But for now, let's continue on and fill in this little hole. So from the pond here to the house is about 2,600 feet, or about a half a mile. And this road is fine. So all the way from my house to here, there's no issues with the road, almost regardless of any soil conditions, wetness or whatever. In the woods here, this is a gravel top all the way down here and up to what I refer to as the 5 corners, because it's sort of the corner of 5 roads. The one we're on, the one the tractor's on, the one straight ahead, that's 3, one there to the left, just to the right of those pair of spruce trees, is number 4, and another road here to the right. This was quite a challenge. It has a lot of gravel here. I had bedrock. I needed to drain it because water was constantly coming across this area and it was impassable with even the slightest amount of moisture, wet weather. So I ended up putting the culvert much higher than I wanted to. Ended up sort of going over it with the gravel to make a bit of a hump. So there's a lot of roads in here that could use the same treatment I'm doing here. They don't all need the road fabric. A couple areas do. So there's plenty of opportunity for me to waste any soil that I have to waste. So I'm not going to run out of uses, but I do run out of time and good weather. So the project at hand here, I cut 50 feet of road fabric, and where I'm going to start, this is all native soil. I haven't stripped anything off here, and I put a little bit of clay on top of here that I hauled from the same spot. Right here you can see it's very muddy. There's a culvert in here, and one of the reasons I want to use road fabric is this culvert is not that deep and my ruts are deep. I did look through it. I haven't damaged it yet. I've come across here maybe 5 times, 6 times with a load of soil just like that, and I'll review these areas that I put further down this road. So I've run some heavy traffic on here, not damage them, but I don't want to take my chances. This is never going to firm up, it's never going to dry out, because it's got topsoil mixed in with it. But once we get over here, I put quite a bit of fill in. So this is all native soil or clay, and this is fine. I've never had an issue even right after I put it in as far as making ruts. So the fabric, which is 12 feet wide, I am going to start here, basically where the ruts start, and then go that way 50 feet, which should cover the worst of this section of road. I don't want to, the other thing with road fabric is you can get a firm base without having to put a lot of soil on top, and there's really no reason to raise this up much other than it'll keep the road drier, because in the spring and in heavy rain there is water that'll shed across the road here. So that part of it'll be good, and I'll need to direct the water either there in front of the tractor or into that culvert to sort of keep it out of the road. All right, enough chatting. Let's put the road fabric down and start hauling soil. The only other option here, instead of using road fabric, would be to strip the topsoil off and just put clay or gravel or whatever on. But the problem with removing the topsoil is, one, is a fair amount of work. Any topsoil I remove is going to be additional volume I have to replace to get the road height back. And the other thing is, I'm in the middle of the woods, so any topsoil I remove, I'm going to be damaging nearby root systems. So this is the best application of road fabric, where I could just lay everything on top, not disturb the native soil, and do what I need to do. But here I can see this got caught up between the tandem wheels, so before I dump material on it, straighten it out. Maybe I can back up and finish dumping. So what I'd like to do, rather than bring my bulldozer down, it's not a big deal if I have to, but is just to spread this out with the bucket on the tractor. Ideally, without disconnecting the trailer, it's a bit of a challenge, but I'll give it a whirl, at least enough so I can dump another load, and then maybe disconnect the trailer if I need to, so I can do a better job of neatening that up. So that's 3 loads. I think that's good enough for now. There's another area, actually several areas, but one other area I can think of that I want to bring more dirt back. So I'm going to disconnect the trailer, spread this out as best I can with the bucket, and then there's another area over there. But before we put a dump, before we dump a load in that other area, I will review where I put material down this road. But let's spread this out first, and then we'll take a little walk. So it's not the levelest. It's very difficult to do that with the tractor, and particularly with this material. If this was loose gravel or sand, it would spread just fine, but unless I really curl the bucket back, it doesn't move. It doesn't dig into the material once it's been laid down and ridden over. When I curl the bucket down at a very sharp angle, I always float it, because if you don't and you hit something like a rock or a stump, then they'll be pushing, the force is going to push the piston that way. So if this is extended, it actually can fold the piston rod. So I'm always floating when I have it at a sharp angle. When I have it more level with the ground, then I can put pressure on it. That's what I did here, because most of the rod is inside the cylinder, so there's less of a chance of it damaging itself. So this is good. It's probably going to be good enough for this year, unless I do for some reason decide to come out with a dozer. Then I can flatten this out nicely. But let's I'll show you the other areas that I've used some of this material. One is right here. You can see a culvert there goes across. I think I put 3 loads here. This had dipped down quite a bit. You can see here hopefully you can how much higher the road is. And then over there it's quite it's down far, probably 3 feet or so from the original grade. So this is a bit of a dip, so I made it a bit flatter, and the same sort of story in the next dip, because the leaves have all covered it over, so it's not easy to see. This was an even more extreme dip, and it's still quite a bit of a dip. Again, I think another 3 loads here, trailer load, so about 15 to 18 yards, something like that. But the culvert is probably buried by 2 feet of material on that side. This side maybe 8 or 10 inches on the in-feed side. So in most of these areas, I still could use some more, but it's a lot better than it was. So this is the cul-de-sac road that I videoed making about 1 year ago now. Actually, it was maybe into November, so maybe 10 or 11 months. But I think maybe 2, I can't remember, 1 or 2 loads. This had dipped down. You're going around a corner, and it went down and sort of was slanted that way, which is not a good recipe, particularly if it's slippery and snow, to go off the road. So I wanted to build this up. I still want to build it up more, but again, it's better than it was. This is sort of a loop, so I made a loop here, so you come in, well, either way, but say you come in this way, then you just go around this way and it meets back up again on this road. So I did that because there's the topography of the land here, a lot of ledge and rock. There's no way to connect with any other road, but I needed access back here. Oh, and if I want to take out any of these trees, I need access, but I don't want to have to turn around out here, and I certainly don't want to have to back up. You know, if I have my logging trailer or anything else out here. There's where it comes out, a little loop-de-loop. All right, so now let's hook the trailer back up. We'll go back and get another load. And there's one other area I want to put some material. But it's going to be a case where I have to dump it all in one spot and then push it with the tractor. So we'll see how that goes. It could be a bit of a challenge. But before I leave this spot, it's remarkable what this fabric does. There's probably, maybe it varies from 4 to 8, maybe 10 inches of material over here, but it's a world of difference. It's still soft underneath, so it does move and sink a little bit when you ride over it, but as far as the material itself, there's almost no depression in this material. And over time, the weight, I think, will push the water out of the material underneath, and it will firm up. So even though here I can drive and I'll make sort of little indentations, but not nearly the muddy ruts that I was making, it'll firm up next year and be much better. So the next area I brought some material was straight ahead. This is the dam, and more to the right instead of to the left where I had backed in before. Come on. But it's snowing now, and it wasn't when we put the dirt out there. That's because when I had filmed where I was going, how I got to where I put that material, for some reason it didn't work out well. I think I had it on like time lapse or something. Anyhow, and it had battery issues. So this is the path that I took. We'll just walk it. The other thing I noticed when I was viewing the videos is when I was finished, it was actually dark, and the finished product did not show up that well. So we'll take a look at it now. But unfortunately, here in the last few minutes, we've gotten our first sort of snow that sticks to the ground this year. So it will probably look a little bit different than it did when I finished putting the material down. So I came down that road, pulled in over here, and then backed up through there, and that's where I will have difficulties that you will see right now. So I realized I had the camera on time lapse, so that didn't work out well. Very difficult to back up a trailer in the woods like this for several reasons. One is it wants to steer itself when you have rough terrain, particularly when it's greasy on a slope. I backed up, got a bit closer to these trees, tried to go forward and straighten myself out, and I keep sliding towards the trees. The other thing is you're limited with the tractor on the front end how sharp you can turn to correct it, because the front end's going to hit a tree. I think I've been able to dump out enough dirt here where I can maneuver around these trees. This, I think it's a yellow birch, and that's a white birch. It could both be white birches, I'm not sure. I maneuver around these trees without having to cut them down. I may rub against them hard, which I don't want to do either, but sometimes we just don't have a choice. All right, let's see how we do. Well, not really what I was hoping for, but it worked. It packed down really hard. I'm thinking now that I have most of this slope leveled out now, that it'll back down easier, and I'll just keep putting loads that way. It's too bad to waste this little bit of dirt there. It would have been nice right there. That's the way it is. Okay, let's hook the trailer back up and go get another load. Well, that actually looks pretty good, although that's really not where I wanted to dump the dirt. I wanted to dump it further down there, but I guess that's fine. Again, it's pretty hard on the edge here where I sort of slipped off. Obviously, it wasn't firm enough, but I think I can get a load down there by that little pile of a riprap stone. Well, let's try it again. So 4 loads, it's about 20 yards. It's a bit bumpy. It's very hard with this material, as I mentioned, to spread out with the tractor, but it's probably as good as I had hoped it could be. It is getting dark. That will likely be the last load, perhaps for the year. So this is that section of road that that you just saw being dumped and spread out as best I could with the tractor bucket. Actually, I'm rather pleased with how it came out. Obviously I need more material, but it's gonna have to wait for less muddy conditions next year. But I was able to cover some of those rocks over there, so this is not quite as sharp of a turn. I leveled it out so it's more level instead of dipping down off to the side here. Probably over here, I'm guessing I brought it up at least 2 feet. The other thing I'm happy with is, even though we've had a fair amount of rain, this is quite solid. It does pack well, and since it's packed, it sort of shed off some of the precipitation we've gotten. But I still have more work to do down this road. There are a lot of low areas, which is really, in most cases, what I'm using this material for. It's not to raise the road up, it's really just to level it out. You can see I put some of that larger rock, 8-inch crushed rock. And I can go through it with a tractor. It's just rather uneven and not as smooth going as I would like it. So let's head back out of the woods into an old pasture where I put down some more material. So this is the field. I mean, that white stuff you see is just snow. This is the field where the road is. So on the edge of the field here is another area where I laid, I think, maybe 4 or 5 trailer loads. So in this particular area, this is pasture land that's probably abandoned maybe 50 years ago, 40, 50 years. So you can see here there's all kinds of puddles. I wasn't trying to build the road up. This is relatively flat, wet land, which is why the eastern white cedar grows so well here. That's sort of the condition that it likes. But just to fill in the divots. I mean, there's some rocks here. I was able to pick some of the rocks out, but there are others that are, if I take the rocks out, it just makes a crater. So it was just much easier to spread this material, skim it over. So some of this might be 8 or 10 inches thick in some spots, and in other areas, you know, barely an inch, like right here where the grass is coming through. Again, just to level it out. This was really difficult traveling. Have to sort of slow down to a crawl to make it through without giving myself whiplash on the tractor. There was one big rock right there, which was beyond the capability of my mid-size excavator to lift it up, so I was able to push it over. That was right here. So I did fill in that, so there was a significant amount of material there. We have had 1.5 inches of rain in the last 36 hours or so. Lots of water running. Not much from this ditch. This one's running down to sort of the middle culvert. This is the bigger one, the 18-inch one. That there is draining most of the field. You can see actually some over there as well. And of course that draining a big part of this field. It all looks good. Lots of water on the road, but that's unavoidable until I finish the top of it and put a nice crown on it. Hopefully it's a nice crown, but relatively clear water, which is nice, not too muddy. We're walking towards the middle culvert now. So it's this side here, this ditch here, that's just a little muddy. It's getting almost all the runoff from this stretch of the road between the culverts. So a fair amount of water going in there. This was sort of the rock garden, the rock graveyard. But working well. And we'll move on up to the last culvert on the road, or the first one, I guess, if you're going from the town road in. So this culvert here is getting almost no water from this side. This is all downhill to that rock garden culvert, the middle one. So this culvert, it gets basically, it's a fair amount of field runoff, but as far as the ditch goes, really where the excavator is, from the excavator to the left all goes to the road, and this little bit here, and then a little portion of the field. far as the road goes, I only have this bit of dirt basically that the excavator is setting on. That's all I have left to sort of finish the major sculpting of the side of the road. But the weather, I don't think, is going to allow me to finish it this year. It's just going to be too muddy this time of year. It's not going to dry out. So all this runoff goes to the road. What I'm going to have to do here is make some more of these breaks, because that windrow of topsoil is acting like a dam, and it's forcing all the little section of field runoff where the dog is to come this way, and it's creating a little Mississippi Delta filling in my ditch. So if this continues, then my fear is then it's going to start going across the road, which that would be the worst case scenario. So I'll take care of that. So I'll take the excavator and just put some breaks along there where it makes sense, so that some of that water comes down here and not concentrated so much where it is. A fair amount of water coming from the town road as well as from my road in the field there, combining into the 24-inch culvert. And coming out in good shape. Actually, the end of the culvert is slightly below the outfeed, which is why it's sort of starting to puddle there just before it exits. So this is my woodlot. It's 45 acres. It's about 2 miles up the road. The maintained town road dead ends maybe a half, 3/4 of a mile from here, but I come out over there. So it's still a town road, but it's not maintained. So I do what I need to do to make it passable for me. I cleared this landing soon after I bought the property a couple of years ago. Pile of rocks. It seems though every video I have I'm talking about a pile of rocks. So this landing suits my purpose now. A couple things, I might make it a little bit bigger. Like if I was to ever have a major logging job, I'm not sure that a 18-wheeler could turn around here. They would probably come out from that way, because the road that connects there is much better shape, it's better maintained. There's no way they could go through there. So make it bigger for that reason. The other thing is, and I don't know if it's just the summer, but it does seem to be very wet. So what I might end up doing is putting sort of a perimeter berm or drain around it, so that the water will shed off left and right and not go sort of through the landing. But anyhow, the reason for the visit, this is where I put in, I had 3 loads of that fill material, the clay. I brought them in here, basically put them right where the 4-wheeler is, and I brought my tractor down with the front end loader and just brought it in here and spread it out as best I could with the bucket. I would have liked to have come up here with my excavator, but there's no easy way to get it up here. I had brought it up here a couple times before, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. So what I did is those 3 loads, which would be about 15 yards, one 10-wheeler, filled in here. Before this, it looks relatively level now, but it was really a lot of big divots, a lot of big valleys, humps, if you will, before, and it was really tailed off that way, really quite an angle. So when I was coming out here in the tractor in the wintertime, dragging logs, I would just sort of slide towards those trees. There is a video I have of marking out the roads that I'm making here, as well as a couple videos of me starting to take some material out, so you can see that. I'll put a link in the description. So this is a lot better than it was, but for me, since I can't easily bring the excavator up, which I would take these stumps out, take the big rocks out, I could take material from here and put it over there and do a really nice job. But bringing out 3 loads of fill was a much easier way to make the worst part of this road a bit more passable, which it is now. It was very difficult, even with a snowpack before. The snowpack makes this road look a lot better than it is. But from here down, it's not too bad. There are a couple big boulders. But in the snowpack, I can get over them just fine. It really was more of the slope here and trying to come out with a tractor. If you spin it all, you go whoop that way. All right, so that's the last place that I've used some of that material. We'll head back to the road. So here we are, back where it began. So this is the topsoil I first spread out a couple of videos ago. You can see just some of the native grass is starting to grow back. It's not going to grow much at all the rest of this year, but it'll probably fill in pretty quickly next year. I may seed it next spring, I'm not sure. Drainage is working fine. This used to be a windrow of topsoil, sort of like that one over there and those, but I was able to spread this out. It was a bit squishy, a bit muddy, but it worked good enough. But it was nice to have that. If you remember, I was going to cut a couple holes through it so that we didn't have channeling down there. But that should all be eliminated, and it'll hopefully just shed a bit more evenly. So we'll finish this video up with a before and after drone shots of what the field looked like when I was mowing it, sort of mowing the path that we ended up cutting out for the road, and what it looks like now. So thanks, stay tuned for the drone shots. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll continue this particular project next year, but more fun to be had during the wintertime on Timber&Terra. Thanks for tuning in.